Okay, it is Friday afternoon, and it's another beautiful afternoon out here. And I'm just about to hook my amp meter up. These are my wires that I ran from the amp meter. They're already connected up inside. And I already tested them with the ohm meter to make sure I got a really good connection there. So that's all I'm going to need. I need to rerun it a little slightly differently here, but where am I going to connect this thing into? I'm going to connect it right here. I've got this line coming off the positive side of the battery, and it's going to the back of the alternator. And this is a 10 gauge wire, and this new stuff I bought is also 10 gauge. Very important to go with at least the same thickness as this wire or bigger. So I'm good to go there, I think. And so this is where I want my amp meter. I want it right here, right in between the alternator and the battery. This line is what's charging up my battery when it needs it. So having the amp meter right here is going to tell me what my alternator's doing, what my battery is using, and all the rest. So I don't know if it's actually possible to hook an amp meter up backwards or not. We're going to find out. So I'm going to simply cut my wire here and start splicing these lines in here, but I'm just going to do it temporarily at first, and then we'll go in there and we'll turn on the lights, the parking lights, the headlights, hit the key, whatever, to see what the amp meter is telling me, and I'll be able to tell what's going on there. So let's get with this. Okay, I have stripped my wires. Well, I should say I cut my wires and I've stripped them, and now I put some connectors on here, and they're just sitting here. They're not crimped down or nothing, because I don't know if I've got this wired up right. So the way to find out is to go turn the key on or hit the lights, whatever, and see what the gauge says. I've connected my positive terminal back up. Let's go check it out. Okay, I just went inside and turned the lights on, even the high beams, turned the key on, and I got absolutely no reading whatsoever out of the amp meter, which means possibly that the amp meter is not functioning, or I don't have this hooked up in the right area. And I'm not going to get a reading until I turn this thing on and the alternator is putting a current through there. I thought I had it right the first time, but perhaps I don't. It didn't matter anyway, because I forgot to turn the camera on, so that's why there's no video of it. But I've come back out here and I've just very temporarily taped these things together. I still haven't crimped them down because I don't know if they're correct or not, but I taped them together with electrical tape just to hold them in place. Now we're going to go in there and actually turn this thing over, fire this thing up. Everything looks safe. Looks like nothing's going to be in the way there. So I think I can fire this up and just see what kind of reading I get. And this time I'm going to turn the camera on. Okay, here we go. So let's first turn some lights on. That's parking lights. That's headlights. That's my brights. And I see, no, that's actually my brights. But the needle is not moving, and it should have moved quite a bit. So let's turn that back off. Now let's hit the key here and see what happens. There, we got a little movement out of it. And I'm turning the key on. Okay, that is actually going the wrong way. That should be on the positive side now, because I've used battery power, and they should be on the positive. So I think I got this thing hooked up backwards. So let's go out there. Yeah. Turn the key back on. See, it's going to the positive, and it should be going to the negative right now. Turn the key off. Okay, that's it. I think I got it backwards. So let's go out there and reverse those wires and then try it again. Okay, I've reversed my wiring around, but I kind of lost track of it for a second. And I hope I didn't put it back the way it originally was. But we'll find out. I saw that needle move the wrong direction. Doggone it. I did. I put it back the way, I guess. The voltmeter up here is working okay, but this is, Okay. Let's go back out there and redo that. Okay, I'm actually got my headlights on, my high beams are running, and the engine's not running. I kind of want to run my battery down. The gauge has not budged. Now let's turn the key on. And I didn't really see anything happen, but oh, because I didn't turn off far enough. Now the needle went slightly into the negative. Okay, key off. There we go. All right. Key off, headlights off. I think we got it this time. Now let's fire this puppy dog up. There we go. That's what it should be doing, because I just used some battery power. I discharged my battery just a little bit, and now the alternator's charging it up. And that's exactly what should be happening. It's charging my battery up. And as the battery's charging up, it should work itself closer to zero. And I can see it's moving ever so slightly. The needle's kind of bouncing around, and maybe that's because it's not a real high dollar amp meter. But that's what it should be doing right there. Okay, we're gonna let this thing run for a little bit. And you can see the voltmeter is right on like it should be. We got good oil pressure there. And my water temperature has cooled back down. So the next thing we're going to do is connect that back up. So I need to get the water temperature pretty hot here. So, all right, well, for now, I think I'm going to actually shut this thing off, because I want to connect my wires up, take that tape off there, crimp it all up, get it all situated the way I want it to be for a permanent connection, and then we'll come back here and fire this thing up and let it run. Okay, I've got everything permanently hooked up. I crimped these son of a guns together. They're about as tight as anything could get, and I also wrapped them pretty heavily in electrical tape. They're not coming out of there. Ran them over here, taped them up to the ground wire, and then run along here. And then something I forgot to talk about already, but this is a great opportunity. And I did run all my wiring. I got 3 wires, 2 for the amp meter and then 1 for the water temperature here. And I hope the camera can see. I ran that through a grommet, a factory grommet. This big wire here is for the AM/FM antenna, and that's a grommet that I ran that through. So there's no rubbing anywhere on the firewall, because that's a really bad thing to have that in contact with any kind of sharp metal areas. So that's ran through a grommet. All right, and then I ran it up here. It's secure. I probably should tie it into this. I don't even remember. Oh, that was for my CB antenna at one time, but I'll run it through that, so there's no possibility that it's gonna go down there and connect up with the exhaust manifold. So yeah, we'll just take advantage of that. So let's go in and start this thing up and let it run for a while and see what the amp meter does. All right, let's fire this doggy up. There we go, we're on the positive side. That's good because I did run my battery down a little bit. So I am gonna let this thing run for a while because I want to get my water temperature up to close to 210. As you can see, my voltmeter's doing all right, doing just what it should. So we'll just let this thing sit here and run for about 10 minutes and get this up to temperature so we can connect this up and see what this is going to do. I'm really curious to see how that's going to work. All right, I've been letting this thing out here idle for about 10 minutes. Let's rev it up a little bit. It's still on the positive side as far as charging goes. You know, at an idle, the alternator's not going to charge the battery as fast as it would if I was cruising along down the road at an RPM like this. So, you know, it has went down. That's good. So, I think my amp meter's going to be good. So, coming over here, looking at water temperature, it's just about, I'd say it's right around 200 degrees, and that's what we want. We want this thing to be up in the air, the gauge to be up. Now it went up to like 210, so don't know how accurate that thing is, but gonna go ahead and do some wiring on this and get it connected up and see if we can basically match that out. Okay, I've connected a little 16 gauge wire here to my coolant temperature gauge, and I've just simply ran a wire over here on a very temporary basis and connected it up to the sending unit. It's not the best connection, but it is making a good connection there. This is the original factory wire. It's just a single wire. That's the sender, and this is the sensor that talks to the computer. So it's been about 12, maybe 15 minutes. The system still feels pretty under pressure. Let's go fire this thing up and see if we're going to get any kind of reading on our new gauge. Okay, let's see what we're going to get. We're going to hit the key and check this out. Alright, I'm not getting any reading at the moment. And I should be getting something. Yeah, I should definitely be getting something by now. Of course, the factory gauge is no longer functioning. And I don't have any warning lights anywhere. Well, let's let it run for just a couple of minutes out here. Then we'll come back and plug the factory gauge in, because it's got to be pretty hot. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and I'm getting absolutely no reading on that at all. And of course, no reading on the factory gauge since it's disconnected. So let's shut this thing down and go out there and reconnect the factory gauge up. Okay, here we go, the last little test. Let's take a look. Alright, I plugged my gauge in, my factory gauge, and just as I suspected, it brought the needle up. So, for some reason, the new gauge does not like the original sender unit, evidently, or it's malfunctioning or whatever. This actually came with its own sender, and I cut it off because I just wanted to plug it into the factory sender. It's actually not factory, it's a new sender, but it's what it calls for, so it's not working, and I'm not terribly disappointed. My factory gauge is working, and that's really good enough for me. So and the ammeter appears to be working. It's still working on charging that battery. So we got to put this thing through the test. A couple of days, take it on a drive up the interstate or somewhere, and give this thing a test. So for now, everything's good. We got one more project to do, and hopefully I can get to it tomorrow, and that's plugging in my illumination. There's the wire there. Now I just got to figure out how I'm going to plug it in to this fuse box down here. I need to climb under there and take a picture of that, take a video of the fuse box so I can see what it looks like. Got to remember to do that before I call it a day here. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.